Hey everyone, in today's video we are talking all about teaching vocabulary to kindergarten, first and second grade students. About a year ago I uploaded this video right here on my channel, and in that video I talk a lot about developing students' vocabulary in terms of breadth, so how many words they know, but also in terms of depth, how well they know those words. I talk about using and choosing words purposefully in your classroom, and also I give a bunch of different activities to help students develop their semantic networks. Now I got a ton of comments on that video asking for more vocabulary tips, so fast forward, here we are a year later, and I have some more tips for you. I do suggest if you haven't watched that video already, after this video, go check it out just so you can get a little more background information. If you've seen my videos before, then welcome back, and if you are new here, my name is Susan Jones. I'm a former first grade and K-2 literacy teacher who now spends a lot of time here on YouTube sharing tips, ideas, and strategies for teachers just like you. Now, if you are ready for some vocab tips, give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and let's get started. Tip number one when teaching vocabulary to our students is that we want this vocabulary to be integrated within our curriculum. We don't just want to teach our students vocabulary words in isolation. It just doesn't stick as well, and if we really want students to understand and apply these new words, we want it to be integrated with something that they're learning. We can easily do this by picking out words in the stories we read aloud to kind of introduce to our students. We can do this by teaching social studies and science topics. There are going to be many different times where you can pick out vocabulary words from your curriculum to really kind of focus on with your kids. And we're able to make these connections stick just a little bit more if we are able to find something that students can really connect to that's either happening in real time or something that connects to our students' lives. For example, it is February right now and the Winter Olympics are going on and the Super Bowl is happening this month. So I mentioned in this video up here that I have 5 vocabulary words I kind of picked out to teach during this month if you're going to also be telling students about the Super Bowl and or the Winter Olympics. The 5 words I chose for students this month are perseverance, effort, strict, ceremony, and pride. Now, when you hear all 5 of those words, you will know that you can definitely teach them when you're not talking about the Winter Olympics or something like the Super Bowl. I was picking them out in reference to athletes and having to train that hard. They have a different ceremony that they're going to, the pride that they would feel when they get there. So I wanted to pick out words that again would kind of stick and resonate with my students. So you will want to explicitly teach these vocabulary words and their definitions to your students, even if you're integrating it into a curriculum or a theme like the Winter Olympics. So you can just explain to them that you have 5 new words that you want to go over, and you can show how they connect to the Olympic Games. When introducing each word, you'll want to display it for them so students can see the word, read it aloud, and you'll also want to give them some kid-friendly definitions. Here are some examples I have for the 5 vocabulary words that I picked out, and also at the bottom I have some sentences you might use with the word missing to see if after you taught students what the word means, if they can figure out which word would go in each space. So tip number 1 is going to be to spend that time picking out vocabulary words that are already integrated to what your students are learning. And then of course, teach them some student-friendly definitions of those words. Tip number 2 is going to be to build a deeper connection with those words. Students will already understand those terms after you've taught them as they're integrated to the subject. So if there are science words they're learning about to go along with their science topic, if they are these example words I gave for talking about athletes in the Olympics, but then you also want them to discuss those words and try to use them connected to their own lives as well. Here I put some discussion and talking points. First, with the 5 words that I picked out, I did say that you should probably talk about the difference between perseverance and effort because they are pretty similar. But then I also have some questions below, like why do we say these athletes must have shown a lot of perseverance to make it to this point in their careers? What challenges do you think these athletes may have come across in their lives? And when have you shown perseverance in your own life? So here students are discussing even further the perseverance that the athletes must have shown. They're coming up with some of their own scenarios of what they think these athletes may have had to overcome. And then they're also thinking about perseverance in their own lives. Here's another example with the word strict. Do you think the athletes followed a strict training routine? Why or why not? What do you think some of those strict rules may have looked like for them? And then have you ever met a strict person before? What does that mean to you? So again, students are connecting strict with the athletes, and they're also thinking about maybe a strict person or some strict rules that they had to follow and what that means. At this point in learning about the words, this is really a time to discuss and clarify those different meanings for your students, answer any questions they might have, and just get them thinking about those words on a deeper level. Tip number 3 for teaching vocabulary is going to be to provide some yes and no examples of each word. You can also do this by providing synonyms and antonyms, but let me show you some yes and no examples. Here I have 2 cards that says, does this sound like perseverance? Juan made a training plan to get better at baseball. He went out every day after school and practiced. Once it got too cold, he decided to stop practicing. And then here's another example. Does this sound like perseverance? Tabitha was learning how to sew. She kept messing up and getting frustrated, but she continued to learn and kept trying until she was able to sew her first piece. There's a thumbs up and a thumbs down on each of those cards, so students can decide, does this sound like perseverance to you? Why doesn't it? Why does it? Juan, in his example, it got really cold outside, so he said, never mind, I'm gonna stop practicing. Students might recognize that, wait a second, he came across an obstacle and he didn't keep pushing through, so that's not really perseverance in their opinion. And then in Tabitha's case, even though it was really difficult and she kept getting frustrated, she did keep trying and kept going. So for each of the 5 vocabulary words, I have a thumbs up and a thumbs down, a yes and a no example. And these aren't just things for students to throw up their thumbs and then move on. You do want them to really explain their reasoning behind their answer. That's going to show you how well they're understanding these words, and when they get a chance to explain the word in the example even further, they understand that vocabulary even more. Now, yes and no examples you can also teach by teaching students synonyms and antonyms of these words as well. So that's just another way to get them thinking about, does this mean the same thing or does this mean the opposite? You know, antonym would be a no example, synonym would be a yes example. The 4th vocabulary tip is to use photographs when teaching these words. Now, I love using photographs when teaching students new vocabulary words because it really allows them to visualize the word and some scenarios in which that word might come up. Now, just like the yes and no examples, you want students to look at their word bank, the 5 words we're going over, and assign them to an image. Now, with photographs, there's sometimes more than one answer, so you really want students to explain their reasoning behind why they see that word in that particular image. For example, here is an image I could show up with the 5 words we've been discussing, and this picture right here could really show a few of the words we talked about. You might have a student say that this image shows pride. Look at his hands up at the side. He's at the top of the mountain and he looks like he feels very proud of himself. This photo could also show effort because a lot of hard work was needed to get to the top of this mountain, and someone could argue that this photo also shows perseverance because he made it all the way to the top, and this looks like a very high mountain, and that must have been very difficult, and I'm sure he had to overcome some challenges to make it to the top. So with many of the photographs, there's not just going to be one concrete answer. You want students to really explain their thinking behind the word they choose, and as long as it makes sense, then it fits. And last but not least, tip number 5 is that we need students to use these words on their own. Part of students adding new vocabulary words to their lexicon is their ability to retrieve and use these words easily. Students definitely need practice with this, so after we've gone through the first 4 steps, learning what the words are, making some connections, yes and no examples, photographs, a lot of kind of explaining what those words are to develop those words deeper, now we want students to use these words on their own. I would definitely have students practice using these words orally with a partner, but then they can also go ahead and extend their learning by writing down the words as well. Here's a simple example of a writing sheet with a word bank with all 5 vocabulary words, and students would be tasked to write 1 or 2 sentences using a few of those words. And also, just for some independent check-in, I would also have students complete an activity like this one, where they have to match up the words to the definition, do a little cloze activity where they have to figure out which word goes into each sentence, and then they can also choose one of the vocabulary words and write their own sentence here as well. You just want to make sure you give students an opportunity to practice using those words, and then also with the writing activity, you can check in and see, this student really gets this word but is a little confused about this one, and so on. So there you have 5 tips for teaching vocabulary in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. All of the sheets and the vocabulary words that I shared in this video, I actually compiled into a vocabulary freebie for you. So that is linked down in the description below. I plan on each month finding like a different theme or an integrated activity where I will pick out 5 words just like this one, and I will make a new little vocabulary unit that will go in the SJT Literacy Club each and every month. I'm really excited about this because I was looking for some more meaningful vocabulary activities to go into the Literacy Club each month, and I think this fits the bill. So if you are a Literacy Club member, I hope you're excited too. And if you're not a member, you can check that out down in the description below. As always, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can take some ideas and tips and activities and use them in your own classroom right away. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you're notified of every new video I come out with, which right now I come out with videos on Thursday and Sunday mornings. See you in the next one. Bye.